A seeker suffers much more than others because now he knows the pain of ignorance.
I'll
give that
universal bars. Have you experienced this? Yes, you have.
What you got for the people?
You don't want to hear us talk.
We know what you're here for.
We know what you're here for.
Because we're about to learn why scientists dismiss temples as rubbish. From the man, the myth, the mystic.
Sadhguru.
I think we just hop right in, hey?
Hop right into what?
We'll find out.
Oh.
The first live person who has spoken of so many of these things that I have read about, and now I'm sort of restless. I want to get on with it, if you will, and I know that's my mind, and I'm not even, my experience today has been that I haven't been able to appreciate, to receive life here today. I've been anxious to move ahead to experiencing life, but I can't seem to do it myself. I can't seem to sustain it.
No.
Wow.
Yeah.
Those are some things that I want to talk to Sadhguru about.
That's really, like, there's a lot of people that ask questions to Sadhguru where I'm like, you could have asked a better question.
Yeah, or you can almost feel a bit of pride. Like, I have these underlying things figured out, so I'm going to ask this question. And then a lot of teachers, Sadhguru similarly, I've heard Jiddu do this a bunch, will be like, what you're really asking. They'll like first answer a little bit of the surface and then go, but what you're really asking, and then say the raw question that would have come with no...
Lovely.
But it's cool how they present it, because usually... And this is one of the things I find so beautiful about these teachers too, is that they do such a good job of navigating, like, I'm not going to make you feel bad for the fact that you approach that, like, pridefully or whatever. I'm going to just, like, guide you deeper, you know? So good. Sorry, I think I cut you off.
I was just going to say that I was just watching a Sadhguru video a couple days ago, and it was on his take of Ramana Maharshi's Who Am I? And some guy asked him that question, but it was clearly like in a very playful manner. Like he was, I could sense, like, it was kind of just like annoying to hear the question. It wasn't like a very deep feeling thing, but he asked him like what his take on Ramana's Who Am I was, and he gave this whole answer, and a lot of it was humorous, and at the end he said, I gave you a humorous answer there because you are not ready to hear the real response. He was like, if you had come to me and asked who am I and you were in tears, or you couldn't even get the question out because it was so deep within you, he said, I would have given you a much different answer. So that's just like, that's reading the situation and knowing what the person needs. Like what is, and that is, been thinking about that a lot. Like that's one key to that freedom thing. This is like, he's not bound by any answer or any need to impress or anything like that. So he's just going to give you what's flowing, you know, whatever's flowing. So that's probably what we're going to get right now.
Let's look at it through like an analogy. You're living in a certain prison, let's say. There's a fort around you. Initially, if the wall is big enough, it all seems to be okay. Yes? Let's say this is 50-acre land. Big wall, you lived in this only all the time. You felt quite all right. But then, suddenly you see up and the birds seem to be going beyond 50 acres. The wind seems to be blowing beyond 50 acres. There is something within you which gets into the madness. People who are around you who pretend to be sane, they all tell you, stop that nonsense, just do what you have to do here. Don't have such fancy dreams, you know? And they're telling you, the so-called worldly wise people, they're always telling you. But you cannot suppress this. If you suppress this, you will suffer. If it doesn't find expression, you'll suffer. But if it seeks expression, you'll suffer even more. A seeker suffers much more than others because now he knows the pain of ignorance.
Ah,
I'll give that.
Universal bars. Have you experienced this? Yes, you have. That's the answer.
A seeker experiences the pain of ignorance. It's that. There's this thing that kept coming to me, and still does at times, when I'm in like a party atmosphere and everyone's like drinking, smoking weed, just like laughing, and there's a part of me that's like, I want to go back there. Because like I used to have nights where I would just like, whatever happens, if someone offers me that, I'm just gonna go.
Yeah.
And it was just like goofy nights. Rock on.
Yeah.
And then after realizing what it was doing to my body and my perception, you know, then I'm in the situation now and I cannot get rid of, like, I can't be ignorant to it. And it's like annoying in a way, because you do have a bit of suffering, because you're like, I wish I could be ignorant, but I can't, you know? I can't. I can't.
I heard a quote once. It was like, a little bit of consciousness feels like a sickness, but a lot of it is freedom.
Ooh.
And so you get like, that's why there's so many people who like pull a curtain open. They're like, wow, that's way worse. Close it.
True.
And it's like, you just needed to get over the hump to see the other side, to see the beginnings of those benefits. And I think that is where a lot of people get turned off, is like that first step.
True.
But then you can't be halfway through this process and then turn back. That's the thing. It's just like, once you awaken fully and you have chosen not to pull the curtain back, then at a certain point you don't have a choice to pull it back.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Because every time you try, it's like, yeah, that
like,
ignorant. You're like, that was ignorance.
Yeah,
and then you're
just
back the next day. And
you
you're
just
like,
know.
Dang it.
Dang it.
I was ignorant, but I saw the ignorance.
Yeah.
So good. So good.
Lovely.
Most people in the world do not know the pain of ignorance. If you do not know the pain of ignorance, you have no real longing within you, isn't it? You are the kind, if you eat a pizza, you are happy. I'm not saying you should not enjoy your pizza. It's just that if you eat a pizza, you think life is fulfilled. Now, you still don't know the pain of ignorance. You think by eating, sleeping, or indulging in this pleasure or that pleasure, life is complete. You still do not know the pain of ignorance. The pain of ignorance should tear you apart. Then the longing to know becomes intense. If the longing to know becomes intense, it is just one moment. The reason why it seems to be so far away is simply because the necessary longing has not come. It is just off and on longing, accordingly off and on experience. If the longing becomes so intense that till I know I cannot sleep, I cannot eat, I cannot breathe, if it becomes like that, just in one moment you will know. Because what you're seeking is not sitting on the mountain or floating on the clouds, it is within you. You know, Jesus told you, though he did his initial marketing about taking you to kingdom of God, the moment enough people gathered, he turned around and said, kingdom of God is within you. If kingdom of God is somewhere, I don't care to go there, it's okay. If it's within you and you missed it, that's tragedy, isn't it?
Oh. There was one thing in particular, I forget what he said, but it made me think of separating, knowing the pain of ignorance. Separating what you know from what you don't know. It just struck me very profoundly, like how important that is, because that's like, yeah, it's important, Sadhguru, but then it hits you. It's like, that's really important.
elaborate? Like,
Yeah,
why
yeah.
is that important?
Just
Or
because
what?
I was gonna, yeah.
Yeah.
Just that I feel like I used to witness in myself all the time, or didn't witness, and now I'm looking back and seeing it, and see in people all around where they think they know something, and they'll be like spewing that out to all the people that are around them, and they're like, I think I know this, I think I know this, I think that I know this, but on the outside they're like, I know this, I know this, I know this, and then they learn something new that makes them change the stance, and then the stance is changed, and they still don't think that they're ignorant, and then that new stance is what they're like standing on, and this is like the I know this, I know this, I know this, and how I'm just realizing how important it is to recognize where you're ignorant. Like, knowing the pain of ignorance means that, like, you know where you only think you know, or you don't know.
Sadhguru says something that just clicked for me with that statement, where he says, a yogi identifies with ignorance.
Oh, man. That's incredible. Yeah.
And that's hilarious, because this morning I'm in these battles in my head right now. It's been a lot of that. What side am I on?
Yeah.
And my solution last night when I was laying in bed, I was like, I cannot do another day of this. Just like stupid back and forth that's going nowhere. And then I had this thought, I was like, all right, tomorrow I need to figure out how to move past. How can I change my approach to this? And this is literally, we're like 6 hours into this method, so I don't know. And that's the method. Right when a thought stream comes up that is defending or attacking either of these sides, I just say, I don't know.
Nice.
And it is identifying with ignorance.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I don't know.
And also, if you've seen our Jiddu episode on thought, he says that when you say, I don't know, there's a period where thinking stops. And because you're going, you're like, oh, I don't know. And it's like, there's no reason to keep thinking or deliberating.
Oh boy.
Tasty.
Isn't it so? If it is somewhere up in the heaven, I don't want to go there, I'm happy in Ohio. That's different. But if it's within you and you missed it, that's true tragedy, isn't it? Right now, that's the tragedy. It's right here and people are missing it. There was a time when I first came to this, if I just looked at people, I would burst into tears. Just seeing what they're missing.
Oh.
Right here, I am exploding with ecstasy. People are walking around with long faces. And it's there in them also, I can see it right there. But they are going about totally unaware of it. I would just cry. If I see people, tears would come. Now I got seasoned and I just laugh at them.
Oh my… Oh. Oh my gosh, that connects a lot with my experience as of late. It's been a lot of witnessing people around me doing their things, and it's like me like kind of exploring what I can do to share when it's helpful, and most of the time just realizing that there's nothing I can do, and just watching someone sit in their suffering, which like suffering could be like thinking you're happy, or thinking you know, or telling me something that you believe in, and me being like, oh well, you know, I could tell them like no need to believe in anything, and when I do it often, but people are just like, what? Like they just don't get it, obviously, you know, because like why would they?
Yeah, of course.
You know, there's no reason why they should. And just going to the point of like, it's just funny. It's like witnessing it. It's like what else can it be? Because it's not serious. It's not heavy. Like, if it's heavy, then that's on me. It's just funny. It can't be anything else at a certain point. But just like, someone just spews the newest thing that they just learned as truth, as fact. And you just listen to it and you're just like, nice. It's just like, you just like chuckle as you walk away. It's like, what else can you do? What else can you do? You could like,
I think it's interesting for me right now because I feel like I'm in both of those camps and flip-flopping back constantly to the point where it's like I'll be deep in it and then like know that there is that clarity but not even be able to get to the clarity at that point.
wow.
You know, so it's like this weird, I feel like that was this lady's kind of question at the beginning.
Yeah.
I feel like that identified or hit me hard because I was like, damn, yeah, I feel that.
And it's like, you could also tell someone the deepest truth. And if their experience doesn't line up with it, like, he's saying that he's feeling this because his whole body's dripping with ecstasy. And so he could say the truths that come from that experience of his body dripping with ecstasy. But if you're just like my body feels kind of crummy right now, you know, then you're not going to really relate on that deeper level.
Oh, that's a very good point.
Like, of course, you know, there's no reason why we should expect anything like that from other people. Because prior to myself, say, doing breath work, like that was like one of the first things, anything like that opened up new doorways of experience. I was so closed to so many things. So like, I was just a closed door, and it was just like, I was sitting in these beliefs that I was like holding as tightly as I could. And yeah, and it's just like, why would anyone else be any different if they haven't experienced the things?
Wowie.
Yeah.
Wowie.
Zooey mama.
Because there's no other way to handle life, you know. So, one of the ways is, now there is a wall, you jump up and fall down, you have a glimpse of the outside. There are many jumping methods. We can make you jump and have you see a glimpse of it. The glimpse is shown to you because that is not the end of it, that is the inspiration. If you don't have a glimpse, then you don't have the momentum to keep it going, isn't it? Mind becomes hopeless.
That's what I feel like something like a psychedelic could do for people. Like, that was a huge driver for me to begin the whole process, because that's an experience. That's like, that is almost like a forced experience. It's like, you take this, it's like, oh, I'm going somewhere, I don't have a choice. You know, of course there are many other methods. It just seems to me like this one kind of like, you don't need to be down in the nitty gritty of like, I'm meditating every day, I'm doing breath work every day, like things like that. It's just like, bang, you're there. So that's one of the benefits of that I see, is just it puts you in that experience. It allows you to be like, you know, you have a good time, you have a bad time, you know, what's good or bad anyways. It's like tough time, beautiful time, whatever you want to call it. Either way, it's like, whoa, that's not like anything I've experienced before.
Things are revealed,
like life isn't necessarily how I think it is all the time. You know, I think that's what something like that does. Or like, say you meet an enlightened being and you're like, what is that? I've never experienced someone working on me with their energies, or like, I've never felt that before. And that just like kind of opens the door. So it's like, how can you, that's also what
sorry, you got it.
And that's also what I feel like is the point of the Dhyana. It's like, not to sit and be enlightened, but he says, Sadhguru says, it sows the seeds for the spiritual process in someone. And so that's like the first, like he says, jump, and you look over the wall and you jump back down and you're like, whoa, there's something on the other side of the wall. You know?
Yeah, that's such a good analogy. I was just gonna say, it's so interesting that all these different methods, like something like psychedelics, for instance, I've had friends who have tried them and not had like a look over the wall type experience.
Yeah.
And it's just, and I'm sure with like yogic practices, meditation, mindfulness, whatever it is, me included, that there are times when like you don't see over the wall.
It's crazy.
You don't get a glimpse.
It's like,
and
why is that?
Yeah, and you're like, maybe I moved up the wall a bit, but it was still just a wall, you know? Like, so it's interesting.
It is.
And it brought me to your analogy earlier that you felt like a closed door to a lot of these things. And that maybe a lot of that look over the wall type stuff, there needs to be a certain amount of your hand on the other side of the door that is like allowing it to open. You know, and like
what do you mean?
Like your willingness to even perceive that thing as a possibility.
Yeah,
you know, because it's like
big time.
Like a dream. Like this whole YouTube channel started with a dream for me, and it was my willingness to be like, maybe that dream is actually telling me something legitimate.
Yes.
But if you are like, dreams are just a mental construct that's like,
if you break it down like that,
me having to talk in my own head, and then the next day I'm like doubting what that dream was.
Yes.
Rather than like,
because then that's the crazy thing. It's like, you know, for a while I was on the thought process of, well, if you just give people if someone had the same exact experiences as I had, they'd be where I am. But that's not necessarily true. You know, if someone...
like the same physical experiences.
Very physical. I'm not talking about all the different layers, but just the very physical top experiences. Like the ones that open me up to a new dimension of life. It's like, there could be a person who experiences all that and just interprets it so differently and just like moves and just goes back to their daily life. It's like, wow, that's tough. And so you just can't, it's all on you. It's all on you. It's like, it can't be you bearing down on anybody else. It's like, everyone should just have the right to just be at whatever level of consciousness that they're at. And what I view my role as right now in other people's lives is like, if you, the best thing I can do is wake up and stay awake and not, you know, drift in and out. Cause that's the tough thing for me, is coming in and out, in and out.
Yeah.
And if I could stay awake, then at any point, anyone who's willing to wake up, like get their head above water, look around, they see me. You know, they see me for the first time as I am, and then it's like, oh, okay,
wow,
welcome, like glad you made it, type thing. Instead of like pulling people up, like forcing them to pull their heads above water, because that's not going to work.
And so much of the time, when you are trying to force something like that, really what happens is that you pull yourself down. Oh, because you know, you go back to all of the like old ways of trying to make a point.
And the needs.
And like, the needs
it's like
of trying,
when
you're
you
like...
need something else from someone, including their awakening. That's a desire. That's something that's going to bring you down. And it's crazy, because it... like, mind is mischievous. It traps you. It's like, I'll be the savior, and the mind's in the background like, hey, they'll never know.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I like what you said about that your first job is to stay awake.
Yeah.
It's like...
yeah, it's crazy, because it's like, sometimes that sounds contradictory. Like, to another person, that might sound like ego. You know, like, my job is... I always think of, like, when you're in an airplane and someone... and the flight attendant's like, if oxygen levels are low, equivalent is we're all sleeping. Oxygen levels are low in the airplane. And the things drop down. Put your own mask on first before you help someone else.
Before you help your child.
And you know, and mentally you're like, no, I wouldn't do that. But that's the best thing to do, because once you have your mask on, you are now able to perpetually help other people. It's not like you help your child's mask on, you pass out, you can't help out anyone else. You know?
Dang, bro, that was a good analogy. I like that.
Yeah.
Maybe there is nothing beyond this. Maybe this is all there is, after all. Eating, sleeping, reproducing, dying. What else is there? This is all there is to life. You'll try to convince yourself. So a little glimpse is given, so that now, suddenly everything here becomes stale. You want to know something there. The glimpse is only an inspiration to give you the necessary momentum to go on with life, to go on with the search and seeking. Now, jumping and looking beyond the wall was good at one time. After some time it becomes frustrating because it's just one moment looking and falling back again. So what we need to do? Now jumping is not good enough. We need…
And then that's the flip side of psychedelics. That's the flip side of most any method, is you get the jump and you're like, nice, let me just keep jumping and see if that gets me over the wall, and it'll never get you over the wall.
Yeah. Ay.
That's the trick, is like, yeah.
That's another thing with dreams, psychedelics. I feel like I've seen it a lot around where we live. I feel like a lot of people our age like start to potentially experiment with something like that or become interested
especially
in it.
in our friend groups.
In our friend groups, yeah. People who are like generally more like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
But I feel like I'll often see someone be like, oh, it was so easy. It was so easy at the time. Like, why isn't it like that? And it just gets back to the methods are traps. You know?
It just gives you the desire to be back in a state, like, and then that creates the need again for the substance, or for, not even the substance, for going back to do breath work, something like that. If that's making you high every day, if you feel like you need that, it's troublesome. Yeah. And the craziest part is, you can be doing all the things without desire and without the need, and it's fine. And it's fine. There's no reason.
It's not sticky at that point.
It's not sticky. Ooh, good word. Sticky. Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta be able to. Yeah, one of the big things we're kind of on a psychedelic tangent today, but a lot of people will, after the first really good experience they have with something like that, will the next time before doing it try to remake everything that made that first experience happen.
Yeah.
Like literally the
it's
amount that they'll take, the place they'll take it in, the time of day, the people they're with, and
all with the expectation that it's going to lead to the same thing that they experience.
And then they set it up and they don't get to the same place.
Because you never do.
Because also if you're gripping, it's the same with breath work or whatever. You're like, whoa, this morning's breath work round, like all of my problems just didn't exist.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you're like back the same place next morning, all your problems still exist. You're like, what the heck?
Yeah.
But it's because you're just holding on to that last experience, like praying that can be the thing. And you've already put your belief in something.
Nice.
Sticky.
It'll get you.
To build a ladder.
Very tricky.
Isn't it? I have always described yoga as a ladder to the divine.
Wow.
Yeah, it's true. There's a huge government.
Yeah, it's true.
scandal going
Yoga
on.
is a ladder to the divine. Could
Some
you
of the
imagine
people
that?
I've shared with.
Because now you're learning how to build a ladder.